My name is Haley, I am 32 years old and live in a small town on the outskirts of Austin, Texas. I used to believe that my marriage to Logan was the greatest blessing fate had given me. Logan is 5 years older than me, a successful man, the sales director of a growing tech company. He is handsome, charming, and always knows how to win people's hearts. At company parties or gatherings with friends, Logan is always the center of attention. Everyone's eyes are on him, while I fade into the background, a shadow beside my perfect husband. But that perfection only existed in the eyes of outsiders. At home, Logan was a different person. Every word he spoke was sweet as honey, but behind it were daggers aimed at my self-esteem. His control was invisible to outsiders because he never raised his voice or broke things. Instead, it was his light offhand remarks that were the cruelest. "Haley, you know I could leave you anytime I want." He laughed as he said that in front of colleagues at a backyard party. Everyone burst out laughing, thinking it was just a harmless joke. I laughed along, but inside I felt like someone was tightening a noose around me. My heart ached, but my face kept its forced smile. That wasn't the first time Logan had said it, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. When we first got married, Logan once said I looked lovely in my favorite red dress. But just a year later, when I wore it to a party with him, he glanced at me and said, "So bright red, are you trying to get attention? Don't you think that's a bit much?" After that night, that dress stayed buried in the corner of my closet. I never dared to wear it again. Day by day, I withdrew more into myself. I started canceling coffee dates with friends, and my phone conversations with my sister became rare. My whole life began to revolve around Logan and his moods. I learned to read his expression before I said anything, afraid that one wrong word would become the subject of his mockery at the next party. One night, after Logan had just showered and left his phone on the kitchen counter, the screen lit up with a message right in front of me. "Lunch today was so fun, you're definitely the one who makes me laugh the most at the office." It came from an unsaved number, but I knew it wasn't a friend of the same gender. I froze for a few seconds, my hands trembling. But when Logan came back, he just smirked, put his arm around my shoulders and whispered in my ear, "Don't overthink it, just a colleague chatting for fun. You know you're the one I love most." His voice was gentle, as if he had done nothing wrong, and I stayed silent. Logan never yelled, never slammed things. He didn't need to. One raised eyebrow, one offhand comment, or even a smirk was enough to make me feel small. Little by little, I began to doubt myself. Was I being too sensitive? Was I the one with the problem? But at night, lying on that wide, cold bed, I saw more clearly than anyone else. The one with the problem was Logan, and I had let him control my mind for far too long. Logan's company's year-end party was held at an upscale restaurant on the shore of Lake Austin. I still remember that night. The air was crisp, the lights shimmering on the water, and I wore a deep blue dress he once praised as elegant, modest. Logan brought me in, his hand tight around my waist, smiling as he said to his colleagues, "Here she is, the luckiest woman tonight because she has me." Everyone laughed, someone raised a glass to toast. I just gave a faint smile, staring into my glass of wine to hide the numbness inside. As the night went on and the drinks flowed, Logan became more reckless. He kept leaving the table, whispering and laughing with colleagues, glancing at me now and then with tired, smug eyes. When the music started, Logan pulled me to the dance floor. The loud music, the dazzling lights, but what haunted me most were his words in my ear. "You know, Haley, I swear if I woke up tomorrow and you were gone, I probably wouldn't even care. A woman like you, anyone could replace." My heart skipped a beat. I stepped back, wanting to break free from his arms, but Logan laughed loudly and held me tighter, as if he'd just told the best joke. The colleagues around us thought we were just teasing each other, and they laughed again. No one saw my hand trembling. When the party ended, Logan could barely stand. I helped him down the long hotel hallway to the company's reserved rooms. He collapsed onto the sofa, eyes half closed, mumbling, "Amy, don't make a big deal out of everything. I'm still here, right? I'm still here." I looked at him, feeling empty. A thought flashed through my mind, as clear as if someone had whispered it in my ear. I quickly walked to the desk, opened a drawer, and took out the document I'd prepared on many sleepless nights. The prenuptial agreement he always refused to sign because he said, "There's no need. I'm faithful." I sat down in front of him, my voice soft as the breeze. Honey, to help me feel at ease, why don't you sign this just as a promise, even for fun? Logan laughed loudly, the smell of alcohol strong. You're funny, Haley, you think I need that to stay with you? Give it here. He grabbed the pen, scrawled his signature boldly, then leaned back on the sofa and fell asleep, still smirking in his drunken haze. The next morning, he woke up with no memory of the night before, except for the headache and the bitter taste of leftover alcohol. I had carefully folded the signed paper, tucked it into my purse, pressed flat like a lucky charm. That afternoon I met with Monica, my best friend from college, now a lawyer in Dallas. Monica didn't ask many questions when I handed her the paper. She silently read every line, every word. When she finished, she took off her glasses and looked at me with a mix of sympathy and determination. You know, in the right hands, this is a weapon. I'll help you formalize it, add what's needed to protect you, just in case. I nodded, my heart no longer trembled. I only felt cold, the kind of cold that makes you more clear-headed than ever. From that day on, I started keeping detailed notes, the dates and times Logan came home late, the times he left hotel receipts in his pockets, the strange messages that popped up on his phone when he left it on the dining table. I no longer cried. Each dot in my notebook was a puzzle piece, a step in a plan I never wanted to need, but had to prepare. I stopped asking where he went or why he was late. I quietly gathered the evidence. His indifferent words and gestures no longer hurt the way they once did. They just pushed me further from the illusion of marriage I had tried so hard to hold on to. Since that night when Logan signed the paper he thought was just for fun, I began playing a perfect role that even he couldn't see through. Every morning I woke up early to prepare his favorite breakfast, sunny-side-up eggs with soft yolks, toast just crisp enough, and coffee made with the exact amount of milk he liked. When he came downstairs, I already had his tie in hand and a smile always on my lip. You're always so busy. I just want you to feel at ease when you come home, I said softly, my eyes full of affection as I looked at him. Logan smirked, pleased with himself, thinking I had become more sensible, that I still needed him like before. Every time I accompanied him to a company party, I dressed just the way he liked, modest, understated, always wearing just enough of a smile so he wouldn't have to worry. When he boasted to colleagues, "Haley always knows how to make me proud," I simply smiled, poured him more wine, and praised him in front of everyone. But deep down, I was no longer the Haley he thought he could easily manipulate. I quietly observed and remembered every detail, the shifty look in his eyes when a message came in, the impatience when I casually mentioned those odd late-night meetings he claimed to attend. Logan began to act like he had the right to slack off, to live more recklessly because he believed I no longer had the strength to resist. He became bolder about bringing his lover to places he used to avoid if I was around. Once, at a crowded charity gala, I spotted him in a shadowed corner with a blonde woman. The way they looked at each other was unmistakable. When I approached, Logan turned to me, draped his arm around my shoulders and introduced, "This is a new colleague, Haley. You know I always appreciate my colleagues, right?" I kept a polite expression, shook the woman's hand, and never took my eyes off Logan. He thought he was controlling the game, but he had just exposed a weakness for me to mark. One evening, when Logan went out claiming he had to entertain clients, I opened the desk drawer in my private room and took out the small box Monica had given me in Dallas. Inside was a tracking device no bigger than a coin. I quietly went to the garage and attached it under Logan's car. My hands didn't shake, my heart didn't race anymore. I had been ready for this moment for a long time. From that night on, whenever Logan said he was traveling for work or attending an urgent meeting, I opened the app on my phone and watched the red dot move on the map to places where no meetings were happening, a hotel by the lake, a resort nearly 30 miles from home, or sometimes a strange apartment I had never heard him mention. I didn't ask, didn't confront him. Each time he came home, I still had warm food waiting, still gently asked about his work, still listened as he complained about colleagues, about clients. Logan grew more confident that I completely trusted him, that I couldn't live without him. His friends became more fond of me, thinking I was the ideal wife. At parties they often joked, "Logan's so lucky to have such a sweet wife like Haley, that's rare these days." Logan would laugh loudly, put his arm around me, sometimes even kiss my forehead in front of everyone. I always say, Haley's the best gift I've ever had. I only responded with a gentle smile. But when his gaze swept past, I looked deep into his eyes and saw the arrogance, the pride, and the carelessness he didn't even realize he showed. On nights when Logan came home late, I sat by the cold dinner table, noting in my notebook every detail, the date, the time, where he had been, the receipts he carelessly left in his pockets, sometimes carrying the scent of a strange perfume I had never smelled before. I didn't feel the pain anymore. Now I felt like I was steadily gaining control of the game. Logan thought he was leading, but in reality, he was handing me the most crucial pieces one by one. One evening in mid-December, when the cold wind had crept into every street corner of Austin, I heard words I would never forget for the rest of my life. That day, our house hosted a small pre-Christmas gathering. Logan invited a few close friends over to drink and chat. I prepared the food, set everything up, then quietly stepped back into the kitchen to give them space. I was carrying a tray of drinks toward the living room when Logan's loud laughter and his best friend Troy's voice echoed from the study, the room they thought no one could hear them from. I paused in the hallway, my hand gripping the tray tightly, as Troy's voice came through, clear as day. "Logan, I bet you, this Christmas when you hand her the divorce papers she'll cry her eyes out. Beg you not to leave. Women, they're all weak and predictable." Glasses clinked, and then Logan's voice. "You're right. Haley's so weak, always buttering me up, cooking me meals, thinking that'll keep me. I just have to hand her the paper, and I guarantee the tears will fall like rain. And hey, I'll do it right before Christmas dinner, with everyone there, to make the show even better." My heart felt like it was being crushed. But I stood still, trying to balance the tray, my breath coming in short gasps. Troy burst out laughing. "Good one. Let me film it, capture that legendary moment. I bet our whole crew will replay it and laugh their heads off." Logan laughed too, drunk on alcohol and the illusion of power he thought he held. I stepped back, my back hitting the cold hallway wall. That chill didn't make me tremble. What froze me was seeing the true face of the man I once loved. I don't remember how I made it back to the kitchen. I just remember that when I set the tray down, my hands had stopped shaking. In my mind, a single beat echoed. It's time. That night, after the guests left, Logan lay passed out on the sofa. I stood by the window, looking out at the neighbors' Christmas lights blinking, as if reminding me of all the Christmases I had tried to preserve this happiness, all the nights I believed that if I was patient enough, Logan would be the good man he once was. That illusion now vanished like mist in the cold wind. The next day, I quietly began preparing more carefully. I gathered all the evidence I had collected, the tracker locations, the hotel receipts, the strange messages he carelessly let show, and the recordings of his contemptuous, insulting words. I organized them into a neat file, locked it in my desk drawer, and sent a copy to Monica through the secure email we had set up, just in case. Logan had no idea I had stayed up nights, drafting notes, marking every time he traveled for work, but was really meeting someone. He had no idea that each time he praised me in front of friends only strengthened my resolve. Because I knew behind that smile, he was preparing his final blow against me. In the days counting down to Christmas, Logan grew more smug. He ordered a new suit, preparing for the party with an unusually eager look on his face. He even joked with me in the kitchen. "This year I should probably give a speech to really surprise everyone, huh?" I looked up at him, warmth in my eyes. "What do you always know how to surprise people?" Logan laughed, kissed my forehead lightly, and grabbed his coat to go meet Troy. The moment the door closed, the smile on my face faded. I sat down on a chair, looking out the glass window where the season's first snowflakes were gently falling. Inside me there was only one thing clearer than ever. I would not let myself become the main character in the ridiculous play that Logan and Troy had so carefully staged. That Christmas Eve, our little house glowed with lights, warm with the scent of baked goods and wine. Family from both sides filled the home, the air full of laughter, well wishes, and soft, familiar Christmas music. Logan, dressed in his crisp new suit, looked every bit the perfect husband, moving about to pour wine, offering drinks, and draping his arm around me whenever someone's gaze fell on us. I wore a pale blue dress, looking gentle and kind, just as Logan always wanted. I smiled at relatives, offered more cake, more drinks, Inside, my heart beat slow and steady, calm, as if I had memorized every step of this performance. When the main course was served, roast turkey with rosemary sauce, Logan tapped his wine glass lightly, his voice ringing out. "May I have a moment? I have a surprise gift for my dear Haley." Everyone clapped, excited. I looked at him, still smiling softly, but my eyes were as silent as stone. Logan pulled a plain white envelope from his jacket pocket. No ribbon, no card. He placed it in front of me, his eyes shining with the triumph of someone certain they had won. "Merry Christmas, my love," he said, voice sweet as sugar. I stared at the envelope for a few seconds, then slowly opened it. The table gradually fell silent as I took out the divorce papers already signed. The neat lines of text, the bright red notary stamp. They felt like a verdict on nearly 8 years of marriage. I looked up and met Logan's gaze, so full of anticipation, as if he were counting each tear I was about to shed. But I didn't cry. I kept my expression soft, making everyone believe I'd just been handed a sweet gift. I took a pen from my purse, signed decisively, neatly, and slid the envelope back toward Logan. "Thank you," I said softly, loud enough for everyone to hear. The room froze. Logan frowned briefly, puzzled by my calm. The crowd began to whisper, while Troy next to him shifted uneasily. His look at me a mix of curiosity and doubt. I didn't let the tension linger. I opened my purse and took out a small gift box wrapped in silver paper, tied with a perfect ribbon. I placed it right in front of Logan, my eyes never leaving his. "This is the Christmas gift I prepared for you," I said. Logan glanced at the box, then smirked, his voice mocking. "You're too sentimental, Haley. You think this'll move me?" But he opened it anyway, unable to resist his curiosity. Inside was a thick folder with a matte black leather cover. Inside were the prenuptial agreement he had signed during that drunken night nearly a year ago, along with the appendices my lawyer had completed. Certified copies, signatures, dates, all valid and proper. Logan's face paled, his smile frozen as he flipped through the pages. He swallowed hard, glancing at me, then looking around as if hoping someone would save him. What is this?" he stammered. My voice stayed light, but each word weighed like stone. "This is the gift you gave me, Logan. I simply kept it safe, and now I'm returning it to you." A heavy silence filled the room. I watched him for another beat, then took a small card from my purse and gently placed it in front of him. "And this?" He opened it, his hand trembling slightly. Inside was an ultrasound image. He stared at it, his eyes widening. You're pregnant?" I inclined my head slightly, my eyes steady and kind. "Yes, 8 weeks. A truly special Christmas, don't you think?" Logan pushed his chair back, his face ghostly pale. Troy peeked at the image, his mouth opening and closing without a word. "Haley, are you trying to flip the whole game?" I tilted my head, looking at him calmly. "No, Logan, I'm not flipping anything, I just prepared. You're the one who thought this was a game." The table fell silent, only the soft, Christmas music playing from the corner, and the frantic beating of Logan's heart, that perhaps only he could hear clearly now. After that Christmas night, everything began to fall apart for Logan in ways he never saw coming. I remember so clearly the next morning when he sat motionless at the dining table. The prenuptial agreement he had signed in his drunken haze nearly a year before lying in front of him. His face was pale, his eyes blank, staring into nothing like someone waking from a nightmare. But this wasn't a dream, and there was no waking up to a different reality. My lawyer, Monica, quickly completed the legal procedures. In less than a month, all the papers were confirmed by the court, and Logan officially lost over 70% of our shared assets, including the house we had lived in, most of the shares he had invested in his private company, and the properties he had worked so hard to build over the years. All because of that agreement he had once signed with a smirk, thinking it was just a joke. The news spread fast. Among friends and colleagues, Logan had once been seen as the model of a successful, confident man. A husband who knew how to keep the family flame alive. Now the rumors swirled everywhere, that he was foolish, that he destroyed himself out of arrogance, that he was brought down by the very wife he had most underestimated. The gatherings where Logan once stole the spotlight gradually saw his absence. People started avoiding mentioning his name in conversations. Troy, the one who once patted his back and laughed loudest at their shameful bet, now kept his distance, no longer daring to reach out. Monica once told me that Troy had called her hesitantly asking for information, but not daring to mention Logan's name for long during the call. Logan's career didn't escape the downward spiral either. At the company at first, colleagues still saw him as a former hero, deserving a little sympathy. But over time, every small mistake he made at work came under sharper scrutiny. Missed delivery deadlines, delayed contract signings, unanswered emails, all became excuses for management to quietly push him out of the position he'd once been so proud of. One afternoon, I happened to see the company's internal newsletter in an old family email inbox Logan had forgotten to revoke my access to. His name no longer appeared in the quarterly commendation list. The employee honor board in the main lobby, where his portrait had once been displayed with the words, "Symbol of Success," had been replaced by someone else. No one publicly tore him down. The silence and forgetting were the deadliest blows. Logan was quietly demoted. He was left with only small trivial tasks, minor contracts he used to assign to subordinates. He left the office earlier, but not because his work was done, because there was no one left for him to impress. In the following days, I began receiving emails from his company's accounting department about the payments mandated by the divorce settlement. The sum was so large they had to break it into installments with apologies for the delay. I didn't feel happy about the money. I just felt relief that I had finally escaped the gilded cage Logan had built around my life all those years. Logan's messages began to trickle in, filled with hesitant words, half wanting to reach out, half too ashamed to face me. "Haley, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would end like this. Can I see you for a moment?" I didn't reply. Not because I hated him. Simply, there was nothing left to say. Everything he needed to hear he heard that night. In my calm gaze, in my fearless smile. As soon as the court finalized everything, I called a locksmith. On a freezing January morning, I stood in the entryway, watching the locksmith remove the old locks and install brand new ones. He didn't ask anything, just worked diligently, occasionally smiling when I offered him a cup of hot tea. When he handed me the new keys, I gripped them tight, feeling the cold metal that, to me, symbolized a new beginning, a door that truly belonged to me. I started changing everything in this house. The cold beige walls were repainted a warm, pale yellow. I took down the abstract paintings Logan had chosen to make the house look successful, and replaced them with small photo frames. A sunrise I captured in Austin. A corner of the Galveston beach from the summer I was 20. After years of holding back because of Logan's words, indoor plants just clutter the house. I boldly placed orchid and fern pots on the windowsills. For the first time in years, my kitchen smelled of baked goods, cinnamon and apples. I played soft jazz as I cooked, my hands in dough, quietly singing along. My cousin Rachel moved in when I was 6 months pregnant. Rachel, 3 years older than me, is a strong, warm woman. She showed up with a big suitcase and a bag full of baby care books, smiling brightly. "Don't worry, I won't let you do this alone, and tonight I'm making you the best chicken soup in Austin." The house gradually filled with laughter. In the evenings, we assembled the crib, folded tiny baby clothes, and stuck glow-in-the-dark stars Rachel had bought onto the nursery walls. Monica occasionally stopped by with a pot of hot stew, a funny titled book like Motherhood Isn't Scary, or simply to sit and listen to me, sipping tea and watching the cozy lights of the house. I began painting again. An old easel stood on the balcony, where I could feel the breeze and let my soul flow with the brush. The first painting was of a sunset by Lake Austin, a place where I had once sat crying during my darkest days. Now, I painted it in the brightest colors. One afternoon, I walked to the nearby bakery to buy gingerbread cookies Rachel liked. Waiting at the crosswalk, I saw Logan from afar. He wore an old coat, no longer walking with his former pride. His face was gaunt, his stubble uneven, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights. He spoke into his phone, his voice sharp, then hung up, shoving the phone into his pocket, frustrated. He passed right by me without noticing, or maybe he did, but didn't have the courage to look up. I stood there, watching his figure fade into the distance, no longer angry, no longer bitter. Just a touch of sadness, for a man who once had everything and lost it all by his own hand. I turned and continued down my path. My steps felt lighter than ever. The evening breeze carried the scent of baked goods from the nearby shop, reminding me of the cozy kitchen where Rachel and I would bake for our afternoon tea. Back home, I opened the door and took in the aroma of cinnamon, warm wood, and the faint scent of orchids. I set the bag of cookies on the table, looked around at my space, and for the first time in years felt complete peace. The next Christmas morning came with bright sunshine, the air just crisp enough for me to wrap the scarf Rachel had given me. Our little house now truly felt warm, no longer a place where I had to struggle to keep up appearances for someone else. The tree Rachel and I had decorated together at the start of the month stood adorned with red ornaments and golden stars she had carefully cut out by hand. The soft twinkle of the lights reflected on the ceiling, reminding me that the old year was behind me and this new one was entirely mine. In the small high chair next to the table, my daughter, little Lena, babbling words not yet clear, her chubby hands tapping the tray, her golden hair shimmered in the morning light, her clear blue eyes wide with curiosity at the candle flickering on the table. Lena is my whole world now. Every time I look at her, my heart overflows with the pure, peaceful love I had been seeking in all the wrong places for so many years. That Christmas dinner had no lavish spread to show off, no hollow toasts or judging eyes. Just Rachel, Monica, and 2 other close friends, the people who stood by me when I needed them most. We gathered around the table, the smell of gingerbread, cinnamon, and roast meat filling the room. Monica raised her glass. "Haley, this is your Christmas. The Christmas where you don't have to hold anything together anymore. Wishing you and Lena strength and happiness, always." I raised my glass with everyone, my gaze drifting to the window where the season's first snowflakes had just begun to fall. Laughter filled the room, light and genuine, no longer mixed with tension or pretense. Lena shook a toy that played music, then giggled when Rachel playfully made a face at the noise. My eyes rested on my daughter, then the simple warm meal as a surge of indescribable emotion filled me. Logan had believed he was the center of my world, that without him I would fall apart. But now, this moment proved everything. I am everything without him. After dinner, we sat by the fireplace. Lena slept peacefully in my arms, her steady, warm breathing like a miracle. Rachel gently draped a light blanket over us, whispering, "You did it, Haley." I closed my eyes, soaking in the simple happiness I once thought was out of reach. Outside, the night wind blew softly, carrying the sound of church bells, signaling a truly peaceful Christmas. No more tears hidden behind forced smiles, no more fear each time I stepped through the door. Just me, my daughter, and a brand new beginning. Where love doesn't need permission, where strength doesn't need to be proven to anyone. What do you think of Haley's story and her courageous choice? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt, inspiring stories about family life.